What's up everybody, this is Jose from Sun Life, and on this video we're going to talk about should I be buying a house right now? Well, to be honest, if I knew the answer to that, I wouldn't be here making a YouTube video. But let's talk about some of the things that brought us to where we are today, where the real estate markets are off the scales, to better understand why we're here in the first place. Since 2009, the stock market has risen uncontrollably, but what you get in return is money that every day is worth less. What many people consider the inflation of prices, I view more as the decline of the power of the US dollar. What were some of the signs that this was coming? In October of 2013, a new $100 bill was issued. No one at that moment knew for certain if there were more US dollars, especially those $100 bills, in the United States or outside of the United States, but it seemed obvious that there was probably more of them outside the United States in circulation than here, and by creating a new $100 bill, it might have sent a direct message to those people with millions or perhaps billions of US dollars in raw currency in other countries like Mexico or Colombia, and very well could have indicated to us here in the United States how we should view the US dollar. It was obvious at this point that US currency in the form of bank accounts would be the preferred method moving forward when it came to doing business and in possessing US dollars. The vast majority of the wealth in the United States at that time was concentrated in the stock markets, IRAs, 401ks, and other types of conventional American types of investments. Those who had raw currency were probably left behind at that moment, while other communities, in particular those like the Latino community, believed strongly in owning real estate. At a time where most Americans had their money in stocks and other types of investments, many people in the Latino community had millions of dollars simply laying in a bank account, generating absolutely no type of interest, but being in a liquid form which was much more flexible than those invested in stocks. And most people that have money conventionally in stock markets, IRAs, and other types of American investments fail to notice what percentage of the US dollar was put into places and in types of investments that they perhaps would have never considered. Just like many people of Asian or Latino descent would not consider conventional American investing, people of an American background would not consider having their money cash or liquid or in real estate in massive bulks the way people from other cultures do. It's important to notice that the United States is made up of many groups. There's also African American, and there's also Latino and Asian. Each one of these groups invests their money differently and has a completely different mindset of how to spend, save, and use their income or their wealth. With these populations of migrants and minorities concentrated in places like California, New York, Texas, and Florida, and other states that are very diverse also happen to have the highest and strongest economies, which goes to show that a large portion of the US economy was in formats, properties, or raw cash, things that cannot actually be counted and considered or even understood what proportion of the economy they really were. And at a time where a large percentage of the US population was illegal, and many of the funds that they were receiving were in cash and being sent to other countries, it was really impossible to determine exactly how much of that money was, where it was, who had it, and how it was being used. As immigration laws shifted against Latino groups, and in particular Mexicans, large amounts of money were moved from the US economy and put into Mexico, making Mexico, in the last recent history, one of the strongest economies in the world. The incomes, rents, and everything related to the economy in Mexico had an incredible uprise. Many people in the United States failed to notice the vast amount of money that left the United States and went to Mexico when migratory laws were implemented and measures taken to have many illegals leave the United States, because the average American person failed to notice how much money these individuals had in their personal savings, and in particular in raw money, not just stocks or other things that you can keep track of. While consumerism devours a vast majority of the income that people in the United States make, those who are here illegally were living with very minimal expenses and saving a vast portion of their incomes. Moreover, once they were able to generate small capital, they were able to multiply their money in other countries and their net worth with the capital that they made in the United States. However, the multiplying of that capital was easier in other parts, in particular growing economies, a good example being Africa, where massive profits and massive increases with globalization has meant that the largest profits in the economy and the largest growth of wealth has happened not in the United States, but in developing countries. Vastly, the ability to create housing laid on an immigrant labor force that was now not present in the United States in recent years, leading to where we are now, where there is a shortage of housing. So while incomes are rising, it became ever more complicated and difficult to have speedy delivery of construction projects and also access to a labor force that can make those things happen. It's as if a massive, uncounted portion of the US population all went into retirement at the same time and all the money they had disappeared. So while these economical and law changes had desired effects in some areas, they created vacuums in other areas that led to further complications that bring us to where we are today. And it was very obvious to many people when the government started handing out money that it was now time to definitely have something else on your hands, making conventional types of US investments less desirable and holding things that are physical like real estate or work equipment much more desirable. Some regions of the United States had already had a culture for having physical things like land and properties and real estate and vehicles and equipment versus having stocks and other types of investments, in particular people in the south and rural parts of the country, leaving many people, especially those in urban areas, with nothing more than a piece of paper to show their entire life savings, or in formats like stock markets that were really insignificant. What was really significant, especially people started to realize, especially after the lockdowns, that perhaps having 100 acres with 150 cows on it may be a much more desirable, valuable thing than having a stock market investment, which who knows what it's really worth, or who knows how it will be affected by laws and regulations, where if you have 100 acres with a bunch of cows on it, it's still worth the same thing. Many people saw also in this time period food shortages, and they realized that in their cities where they were living, these areas were food deserts if, let's say, the fuel pumps dry up or the markets are closed. This no doubt opened up the eyes of smart people who immediately begin to relocate to other parts of the country where they could have better access to these types of investments, leaving behind people who had not made those changes to begin with because they were afraid of change. So we have now entering the market and the buying force are people who were actually initially cowards. These are not smart money. Scared money don't make money, and we're looking at now as people who have absolutely no guts, absolutely no instinct, absolutely no brain, absolutely nothing. These are the people that were the losers, that were stuck with the paper format that nobody else wanted. So what at once was believed to be a secure investment is now looked at as something that has absolutely no value. And while on paper these things may appear value, in realistic days, houses and other physical things, vehicles and work equipment are more difficult to obtain than ever. So the feeding frenzy that is on the market now, these are not the winners. These are the losers that are scrambling to catch up with everybody else who already made the right decisions many years ago. So many people scramble to see what they're going to do with their dollars that are worth every day less. The smart people are sitting back saying, "I told you so, city boy." Leading to the question of who's really smart now. Globalization has changed the entire world and the formats in which money is being kept, in which wealth is being considered and transferred, is every day changing from cryptocurrencies to real estate, and many of the things that people thought were solid are now considered worthless. Therefore, right now, if you want to buy a property, I can't tell you if it's the right time or not, but I can tell you that those that are doing it now are pretty much the losers of the economy, scrambling to dump investments in formats of wealth that are no longer valid, useful, or of any value. Resonating in my head are the words of people like Grant Cardone, who said money is garbage, burn it, get rid of it as soon as you can. And also Dave Ramsey, which said if you buy a house and tomorrow it's worth nothing, would you still want it?